as we go along.
Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, ladies for now, to our Earth Nouveau weekly gathering. And today we're going to talk about creation to zero. So why we're going to talk about this? Because it's a bit of a response to what we had last week. We had the human design with Gary kindly came up, Gary Coppola, and we talked about our designs and everything. And it just brought up a reminder of the creation, the generation of the manifestation, the inspiration, and all of that is actually changing, especially in this era now, where we might, it's like we did our designs and everything, but those are designs at the beginning of the birth. Now they do have an impact and influence on where we're going with all of this, but of course after so many years of karmic resolution, we can no longer just say this is me and that's it. We're coming, so our profiles are changing, the structures are sort of changing, the way we communicate are changing, especially with, and this is what I want to mention here, especially with the solar plexus mutation that we're going into. I mean, we have been working along those lines forever, since we've began all of this, because it's part of the self-mastery, getting out of this turmoil, out of the chaos of all those, feelings and thoughts, not so much thoughts, but all this emotional blah, blah, because there is something underneath. There is a new sensory perception that is being directed and guided through the solar plexus, but it's beyond the six senses. So that will influence our decision making, that will influence how we communicate with other people, over the next couple of years. And that will lead us into that solar plexus mutation, as this Raru Ha, or whatever his name is, mentions actually in his notes. And also the galactic citizenship. So everything is changing. So if everything is changing, needless to say, our way of creation is changing as well. So one of the things, first of all, let's just get, what's the difference between generating, or how do we define creation? What is creation for us? What does creation actually mean? And I might want to.
To me, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
To me, it means just making something happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Having a vision in your mind and making it happen.
Mm-hmm. Let's work with that, okay? Because what does making it happen mean? What do we actually do and be in order to make something happen?
For me, it's like...
No, go ahead, Sandrine.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because it's coming up more and more in what I'm thinking. It's like the use of this term of inverter. When you have a solar panel system and there is the pure energy that is coming through the solar panels, and it needs to be inverted into electricity matter that you can use it. So I'm seeing myself more and more, and a lot of the stuff that we are doing as inverters, in a sense. We're taking this energy that is coming in somehow. We have different types of how to decode that energy that it's coming through us because of our design. And then we are using it in the way we can, after the decodification, recodifying it into, so let's make it happen in ways that we can, we're channeling it through to making it happen. So this is how a little bit like I'm with all this thinking on the human design and the creation, and this is more and more coming into my head like this.
And I love it, because you take this is perfect what you've just said, because it takes it all the way back. It takes it all the way back before intention. It takes it all the way back before shaping that energy that you are creating through having a breath, through having a heart, through having a vehicle that you're driving. Now, and this is the interesting thing, and this is also what I have, not studied, to be honest, a lot, but if I looked into, because I've always been interested in the void space. Now that takes us back all the way back before the energy is actually getting created. And this is what this guy's talking about. He actually mentions in one of his write-ups, he is saying that 73, let's say, I'm not entirely sure which, 73.5 or something, is dark matter, is dark energy. 23% is dark matter. Now, that is neutral. That is pure potential. Now we come in with an atomic structure, and those 4.65% of atomic structure, not just human beings, of course, but anyone with an atomic structure, creates the heat, creates that life force. So from a creation, generation perspective, just you walking on this earth, breathing, is creating, generating that life force that you are creating through your atomic structure. Now, this is also so important for people who actually, have so much pressure on their head and in their root, they have to create something in particular. You're creating, you're breathing, you're creating, you're spiritual. That's it. Now we can take it from there. Now, Sandrine wants to say something.
Are we creating the life force? I think it's more that we are decodifying it in a sense.
Well, we are using, and he calls that neutrinos, which is a subatomic particle that is neutral in itself.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I would call love. That is love for me, the fabric of existence. When I read this neutrinos, I think that's what it's called. That subatomic particle, for me, that's the fabric of existence, the love energy, if you wish. And then you interacting with that through the crystals of consciousness that you have because of your connections to all the different stars and the different places you've come from, you start creating. So it's almost like you are creating the life force energy. And then what you do with it is a different story.
This is where I think I would use for myself, for my understanding, the verb inverting.
Yeah.
Because
that's what you said. You said it in different words.
But but okay. So we are on the, you're using that word, I'm using that word, but we are saying the same thing. Fine.
I think so. What do you guys say?
I mean, you could call it transmutation as well, I think.
Transmutation.
Because you're taking something, and you're turning it into something else. So it is, right, the highest form of alchemy.
Yeah.
Alchemist.
To look closer to center of everything that we are saying, creation is existence. So we are creation just by fact that we are existing. We are creating each second, each moment. This is what it is. Like you guys saying, even fact that we are breathing, it's creation already. And then another question, what we are creating? This would be more interesting thing to look at, because it's kind of like given, we are creators, we are creation, we are that thing, but what we are creating? How we connect who we are, our intention, our reason for being in some shape or form, what we are creating, and especially for us as we are human beings today, what we are creating by our presence in this world, being human being. And if we are looking into creation 2.0, it's what we're going to create, what is our vision, what is our knowing inside knowing, because we came on that change, in time of change. So we already knew that we will create something new. That would be for me more interesting to look how to tap into that, our inner knowing, why we came in this time of change, and how to start be very clear what we're going to create, how we want to see this world, or even further than just Earth. this universe, multiverse.
Absolutely.
Because it's changing everything. Yeah.
We're going to get that. That was just the warm-up. That was just the warm-up now. And it was important to put that forward for all these people who actually judge the shit out of themselves that they're not creating. Okay, so let's take that belief system that you're not creating, that you're not doing it right, you're doing it wrong, you're not doing it as good as somebody else, and just destroy and uncreate that. Let that go. Yeah, and then we can start now from that and go into what Irina is saying, because you know this is where it gets interesting. But it was worth mentioning the other bit. Now, from that perspective now, the responsibility comes back into all of this. Because, you know, lots of those human design types, profiles are very much responding to something. All the generators are responding to something. And there is this thing which, you know, I've been, you know, caught up as well, because like, I'm not a fucking responder. I'm an initiator. I'm a creator. I'm a manifestor, you know, that kind of thing. Now, let's talk about responding, the ability to have a response. Let's talk about that.
Let's redefine, open a little bit wider in connection to today time. What is that responsibility? Because people usually see it like you need to immediately become very serious and look out for something, you need to respond. So it's not that today, I believe. Today we have to return. It depends on if you tuned in into some kind of universal truth, some kind of definition of where we are, who we are, what we are doing here. You will tap, you will hold that vibration inside of you that will allow you to relax when you think and when you tap into responsibility, ability to respond. And this is not some kind of I need to answer those questions energy, but you can now turn it into joy and excitement of doing something that you feel inside of you when you are in some kind of adjustment inside of you.
Okay, so let's use what you just said as an example for what we throw it under what the ability to respond equals the ability to listen to what is required right now.
But to respond to what? This is the question. Most of the time people respond to some outer signal. But if you tune it into inside signal, then you are pure creator, because you are responding to what you already know, why you came here, who you are really in this symphony of this world.
You are not in a reactive mode. You're not in the reactive mode. You're more in the internalized, responding from a different place, from a different center, from your center, ideally, in a response to something, and not an immediate emotional reaction or a trained reaction, a fight or flight reaction.
Exactly.
So let's break it down. Okay. So big picture is listening, responding is a part of creation. So anyone who thinks who is a creator, generator, instigator, whatever, if they can't listen, if they can't respond, then there's something to look at this. And in order for people to give people some assistance or types, even for obviously ourselves, what kinds of types of listening are there? What kind of abilities for responding are there? And Sandrine, you just mentioned the centers. And of course, this is where human design comes in again with its, you know, amazingness, because there are various different centers. So how do we listen? How do we listen? There's active listening, like you listening to me now, communicating through the throat center. But then there's a lot of passive listening. And we don't have to go necessarily into the various centers, but we can. But what kind of passive listening is there that we must actually, and I say must, because this is the time to really start listening to this extra sensory perception that is becoming more and more available on this planet. So what is passive listening? How do you guys listen passively?
Can I step in if anyone don't want to be first one to talk? Because I'm going to, again, take it a little bit more expanded thing. If we tune into outer world today, it's a cacophony. It's a chaos today. Everything changing, no stability, everything not even understandable how they got with that idea, why this idea is sounding today in the world, why this screaming so loud. So it's cacophony outside. And now, nice time to remember that we have two types of possibilities to tune into space where we are existing, and this is universe. So if we tune in outer universe, what in sacred geometry they call it infinitely big universe, yes, when golden mean going unfolding into outer space, and it doesn't have any borders. So this is what we are seeing and sensing in outer world. It's an infinitely big universe, but in that spiral golden mean we have another side of that spiral that is imploding, and that imploding spiral opening for us infinitely small universe that is inside of us, inside of our body, to be more precise, inside of space, inside of heart. We have that infinitely small universe. That infinitely small universe in more order all the time. Why? It's responding to real changes, real flow, without someone screaming too loud. It's inside of you. This is exactly how you, without anyone voice influencing, can see what is happening in the universe. So when we tap inside into that infinitely small universe, this is where you can see order in this chaos. And this is that passive listening that available for us tuning in outer world, when you have connection to your precise, only belong to you, connection to that universe without anyone screaming that is inside of you.
Great stuff. Thanks for giving us the distinction between the outer listening and the inner listening, the outer universe and the infinitely small universe. Yeah, so that's great. Now let's look at the inner listening. Take that. Let's focus on the inner listening, as Irina just said, the importance of the inner listening, and let's get a bit more detailed on that. How can we use our inner listening response for creation, having established that listening and responding is part of creation, having established that we are letting the outside go, we're not going to be dictated or determined or influenced necessarily nowadays from the outside distraction, but we're going to go and listen from within. So how are we going to do that? What kind of stuff do you guys do in order to listen from within, from that infinite small universe Irina just beautifully illustrated?
Can I continue?
For me, it's going back to my breath,
Yeah.
right? When I breathe, right, I feel calm, but there's also a knowingness, an awareness, right, of the way that my spirit and my body, my mind are all working together, right? And I think the breath, so just to respond to what Irina said, I think yes, there is a lot of chaos, but there's also, earth and her consistency. So like being in nature, right, I think is a really great place to connect. I went on a walk in a beautiful canyon yesterday, and there was this circle of redwood trees, and I just stood within that circle of redwood trees, and those trees just had the ability to hold so much space, right? And so when you pull yourself out, I think of that day to day, whether it's a job that you're working, whether you're on social media or the internet or listening to YouTube, whether you're in a city like I am, right? There's always information that's coming in, right? I think one of the most difficult things to do is say, okay, what is a distraction and what is relevant for me right now? So when you come back to the breath and just sit quietly within yourself, I think that's when the intuition can come in. And that's one of the techniques that I use for that.
Beautiful. That's very much like when we look at the human design, we could say that would be a heart authority, for decision making. She's going into the heart, as lots of, we know, Tanya, you're one of those heart chicks. So you go into the heart.
Well, and interestingly enough, in human design, my authority is emotional solar plexus.
Well, that's why I keep always saying, because the heart is the least one that actually makes decisions. But anyway, it's a connection there, But let's talk about emotional authority. Let's talk about emotional listening. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Because that's another center, the solar plexus. That's the one that is mutating. That's the one that's actually changing. That's the one I would say is sort of connected to the sense perception. But I might be wrong on this one. I don't know. We'll have to see how this all pans out. So who works on an emotional authority? Who does listen and respond through emotions? And don't get hung up on the turmoil, the chaotic emotion, because we are now, let's call ourselves masters here. So we are we are in the sacred neutral. So the question is, how can you have emotional solar plexus authority, how you make decisions, how you listen, how you respond, how you create from a sacred neutral perspective?
I mean, the solar plexus is really, from my perspective, the personal power center. Right? So when you're responding, or when I'm responding to emotions or feelings, really, for me, I mean, I guess I take that into my own action, right? I take it into my own personal power and run with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the solar plexus, is also, that's the spirit consciousness. That's connected to the spirit consciousness, because the solar plexus is also connected to the astral world. And whilst we're not even having to pay attention to what's going on the other side, through the solar plexus, through the dreaming body, we are connected to the astral world. We are connected to the spiritual consciousness. So we have to take that energy that we are perceiving in the solar plexus, run it up and down through all the other centers, and then make a choice, respond from a solar plexus. If we are designed to do that. There are other people, making choices or responding from a sacral perspective, like Sandrine, because her sacrum is connected straight to the throat, right? Now,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So whatever she comes, sacral, straight to open the mouth, blah, comes out, right? And not in a bad way. That's the connection, And also the throat is the manifestation, is the seat of manifestation. So my partner is exactly the same. Funny enough, his design is super interesting from a birth sign perspective. He only has 2 defined centers. sacrum and throat. And that's how it works. Everything else used to be undefined. It's obviously changing, but that's a very interesting response, you know. And it's not easy to live with somebody like that, you know, because nothing is like, everything just comes out. So, and the sacrum is where we create our life force, right? In particular. So it goes straight. That's an inner representation of creating. There are other, you know, other people, or we all do it. We pick up life force from other people, you know. And it's interesting with the sacrum. What I've written this down actually. The sacral. If anyone has a sacral authority, and responds from a sacrum, and responds and listens, the decision is made from the response to a request from another person. So those guys are amazing investigators, right?
Yes. It's exactly where I like you said, although I have been working on this self-development for some time, or this getting rid of the consolidation of the soul charts, and getting rid of the trauma and stopping to emotionally react, you know, because that is also that for my teenage years and also early 20s, that's where the sacral gut was, you know, what was, and sacral throat connection was actually a lot of difficulties for me, because I just blurted things out, you know, without even processing them. And I nowadays I sense when it's coming up. It's still responding immediately without going through the solar plexus or the heart filter or even the mind filter. But as I have been aligning in a sense or cleaning up these things, I know what is coming out. I can trust it much more than I did in the past, because that was inspired by, or even not inspired, but even inspired by many other things that were not so conclusive as nowadays. So now I know that when my mouth opens and something comes out without it having processed here in the brain, because that is not my processing center. My processing center is well below there. And that is also why I always tell people, I'm just, you know, stuck on the ground when I'm meditating, and I only see dark, because what else should I see? That's what I'm supposed to be seeing, because that is where I take all my energy from the dark. And in a good way, you know, the seed goes into the dark to then come up and go for the light. And so in a sense, this sacral, like you mentioned now, this the responding, I just notice it also that when I'm usually not the one that goes in a group and asks questions. I'm not doing that. No. I'm responding. I also tell people, if you want to know something, just ask me. And then I'm, you know, in the flow, and then I will respond. Whatever, if you want to hear it or not, I don't care, in a sense, you know. So yeah, it's coming everything really nicely together. This when I read on the human design, that's just really wonderful putting all this together.
Yeah, they also say when you have your sacrum, your own inner generated life energy connected to your throat, this is what trust actually is. Then you trust yourself. Of course, that comes out from the top, and then we have, you know, from the collective and everything. But that is one of those signs where the connect, especially if the connection is strengthened completely, and the light goes through.
This is exactly one of the shifts that I have been noticing over the last year. Is this really you know, I surrendered into this trust, literally. And I'm feeling so much better in that, because I know where it's coming from. I know where I'm going with it, and I can trust it. I can trust this process now, this inner process in me.
Let's look in our time from perspective of human 2.0, not from 1.0.
Yes.
2.0. Of what you are guys now, we are sharing now, it is transition for me, in my perception, in my vision. It is a transition type of creation and existence in transition time, and we can expand it and see it from eyes of human 2.0. Now, what is that? What you guys saying? Solar plexus. We were centered in solar plexus for long time before this transition. We were centered there. We were creating our world from that power center. Today, we are changing our centering in our body, how we see this world, how we exist in this world, to heart center. And it's interesting to mention, again, the same information I already shared. We have 2 heart centers. So, one of those heart centers that is connected to that inner universe, to that unconditional love, like you, Martina, said, creation for you, it's a love, that dark matter, it's a love, it's that void where all possibilities exist. Yeah, it's actually what is universe, it's all possibilities, and we just deciphering those possibilities of universe and making them into something, turning them into something that is defined, instead of possibility into something tangible that we can experience. So if we look from that perception, that we are shifting our centering from solar plexus, we're transforming that solar plexus existence into from heart existence. So we are tapping into one of those heart centers, and that one, unconditional love, your straight connection to universal possibilities, would be that transformation in my vision. So everything we were doing and still enjoying doing as transitional period, what we were actually not doing in our previous experience in this universe, when we were limited and we were experiencing limitations possibility, now we are enjoying what human design is describing. That's why it's so popular now, because people finally opening who they are and start to act of who they are, who they inside, what they are inside as a human being that is connected to upper heart chakra. But that human 2.0, it's a centering in your lower heart chakra that is giving you access to entirety of universe, where you are existing and creating each moment consciously. So that what we are looking, fulfill our powers and make those powers working for us now, right now, in this existence. This is what available for us when we centered in that lower heart chakra. But without using your connection to this creation from your upper heart chakra, human, it's nothing. You just breathing and enjoying your breathing, and nothing human created at that moment. You're not experiencing human part of creation. But if you using what you guys described, that I'm explaining everything, I'm giving answers, I'm creating those ideas for some kind of experience, then centering in your lower heart chakra, giving you wonderful, harmonious experience as human being, and you using your human design thing from that lower heart chakra connection to universe.
Beautifully said. So let me add something to that. Yeah, the heart chakra, as it is at the moment, is related to if it's defined, then it's like I have something to prove. If it's undefined, I have nothing to prove. Yeah, so that's that. Now, the heart center is connected to the ego, to the I am, just like what you were saying. Yeah,
Upper heart chakra. Upper heart chakra.
Well, let me just give you that addition, maybe to look at it from that perspective, because I'm talking from a human design perspective, the way I interpret that 9-centered being, because it's a separate, it's got the G center, what you call the upper heart chakra, which is, some people could call that the thymus. You've probably heard people saying the thymus is coming back, even though, from a different perspective. And it's that center, as Irina says, the upper heart chakra, the center of purpose and the center of, that kind of thing. But at the moment, we still have a separation in that. So we have the heart chakra, the ego, the I am. We're still having something to prove. Once we're letting go of that, that's when the solar plexus is folding into the heart chakra, just like Irina is saying. And that's what we've been saying for a long time now. The solar plexus is folding into the heart chakra and communicating with the chi center, or the higher heart chakra, the thymus, where the purpose is. So it's like we have no longer anything to prove. We're not living as per our purpose. We have the inner and the outer listening and responsive abilities. Yeah.
So when you convert your solar plexus into heart energy, you have to tune into 2 chakras. You see, they work parallel. They can't exist one
Separated,
or another separately. Yes, they can't. Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you tune only into lower heart chakra, you're not creating, you're not human actually. You're just breathing and you're observing, you are witnessing how everyone else creating. So you have to tune into 2. You have to be person to create something personal, what you are putting into this world. So you have to tune, but without color of your lower heart chakra, your upper heart chakra will be in mode of good, bad all the time.
Well,
you will not able to be in harmony with nature.
Well, I hear what you're saying. It's just for me that I could almost say, for me, the heart chakra is, I'm alive. Without the heart, I'm not alive. Without the heart, I'm not breathing. I'm not creating life force energy. Yeah. I can have an undefined heart chakra, which I actually have. And this is why, I always have this conversation with you guys, and I'm still creating, because I got a spleen, I got a solar plexus, I got a sacrum, I've got, all these other centers that are still creating. But in addition to that, Irina, I if I understand this correctly, is when all the centers are working together in alignment with the purpose, which is the higher heart, and the ego, which is the lower heart, that has nothing to prove, then we're on the right track. No?
Oh, you mean like no ego, lower heart chakra? Yes. So this
no. Okay, let me just say one thing here. I do not, at this time of evolution, I'm not happy to say let go of your ego, because it's your identity and you will need it in order to get there, in order to get where you probably already are. But the majority of people is not there. So we've worked so fucking hard to get our ego going. There's nothing wrong. It's the agent of the soul.
This is what's happening. People enjoying finally to sound who they are. So yes, ego, we have to have that thing, but it is connected to upper heart chakra. This is where you are realizing yourself as human being. That's why I'm saying, just to stop in your lower heart chakra connection to everything unconditional love, it's not enough for human existence.
No. Well, in fact, it's impossible. That's what we talked to. So if you're in the lower chakra, we can't talk about unconditional love, because you can't do that, right? You need to know your purpose in the higher chakra, and you have it defined to a certain extent for you to say, now I'm doing unconditional love, because other than that, you're doing nothing like that. You're doing, I have something to prove. As soon as you can say, I have nothing to prove anymore, then you can say, now I can work on unconditional love. And
I
there's
think
the
this
extra arena that you're saying.
Yeah, and I also think this is where a lot of the misinterpretations of the Buddhisms and of those religions or those interpretations that are coming from letting go of the ego, that it's not the letting go of the ego that they are talking about. It is this get what you are first, and then you can let go, because then you have everything together. But by letting go, you don't need to, you're not losing yourself.
That's
This
why
is...
when sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go, Irina.
That's why when we look at Sai Baba, who is creating from nothing, we are amazed, because he is the deepest of nothing. He is the deepest of no ego. At the same time, he can create anything from that nothingness. So that part of Buddhism and that tradition was hidden, so hidden for so long time, and was available only for very limited part of that tradition who could reach that high to become creators from nothing, pure creators of anything from nothing.
Yeah.
So this is was hidden for a long time. So to return to, we have to have that ego. Yes, we have to have your definition, who you are personally. Yes. And when you have the definition who you are personally in harmony, not proving, not pushing your idea, not in trauma, but already in joy, you enjoying yourself, who you are, then centering in that lower heart chakra. This is what Tanya was describing in the beginning. This is that breathing that we receive when we are in nature, connection to that order of chaos of transition, that infinitely small universe inside of us. Then when we are centered, rooted in that energy, then when you create from your enjoying yourself, then you create your real creator, and then everything available for you to reach right now, right here. What you created this body for your experience, what kind of experience you were holding inside of you, creating all that you are today.
Yeah. As long as you need to eat and shit and make choices in this reality as a human being, you keep your ego. It makes it easier. Make choices.
But we can redefine ego. We can redefine ego. What is that? In my definition, what people call ego, usually it's what they don't like. No. I call it not loved part of your personality. That you never looked why you stepped into emphasizing something of who you are. You never looked why, what kind of circumstances made you to scream that part of you so loud that everything else quiet and listening. This is what usually people don't like in them. But if you look, what kind of circumstances put you into that position to pick that part of you and put in front, making for you way in this world by that part of you, then when you invite that part of you, what people call ego, into family, you love that part, you understand that part, and now you are using when you need, not all the time, but only when you are in circumstances you have to use that part of you, then you are in harmony as person. Then you don't have ego as people describe that ego. You have whole complete personality working.
No, I think what we're going to do, thanks, Irina. I think what we're going to do at some stage, we're going to do an ego definition, and find actually what you call these things where you have EGO, find words that describe, there's a word for that, acronyms or something. No,
acronyms,
synonyms.
Yes, acronyms.
No, acronyms.
EG and O, whatever that means, like eternally generating omnipresently, blah, blah, whatever. But anyway, no, that's fine. That's great. Let me add another one, because that's ego heart center. We talked about the solar plexus. We talked about the sacral. Now, of course, let's talk about the spleen. We have to talk about the spleen because that's the most ancient authority. We used that back when we were Neanderthals, right? Now, the spleen is the one, and I love the spleen, and I never really acknowledged that a lot, you know, until I really started realizing what's going on. That's the seat of intuition. That's the seat where we find it. For instance, me, I find things. And then synchronicities, looking into the clouds, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So all that what's forebodings, instincts, intuition, the decision, the response, the creation is based on those intuitive, imaginary instincts, impulses. So that's another way. All we're doing here is it's just giving a couple of ideas. So what? How do I listen? Do I listen with my spleen? Do I listen with my heart, with my higher heart, my lower heart, my ego, my solar plexus? How? Because so many people do not acknowledge what we actually, how we're making choices, how we're making decisions, how we are responding, how we are creating at the end of the day. Because every response that we give, every choice that we make creates an infinite possibility. Doesn't mean that we have to follow through it. The manifesting generator probably will manifest it much, or the manifestor will manifest it much faster than everyone else. But now let's think about the creation of the people, like the life experimenter. Like I'm one of those. Do I come forward with, yes, a book, yes, but do I come forward with workshops, this and this? Do I create something tangible, material every time I create life force? No. Is it necessary for me? No. What's the impact of your life creating energies on the collective just by being fucking happy, being joyful? Just knowing, having this, let's just think, Irina, just one more second. Just us having this conversation, how does that make a difference? And we're not signing anyone up. We're not getting paid for what we're doing, just creating all this amazing energy. How is that impacting on the collective and on each other?
Just a quick question, guys, remind me, please. Spleen, it's connected to sweetness, correct?
Yes.
And dream
No,
time.
it's pancreas. That's a pancreas. Spleen is connected. Yeah, it is around there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right. If you
Liver.
hold up your left hand and put it, you know, feel where your rib cage is, kind of in alignment with the solar plexus, that's where your spleen is.
And it's the oldest authority. Yeah, that goes back. So, you know, like stargazing, making choices based on all this intangible stuff. Not necessarily feeling, intuition, synchronicities, you know. So what was my question? I have no idea. I can't remember what I just said. What did I ask?
Were you talking about the authority of the spleen? Does anybody have a
Yes.
spleen authority?
Have we moved on from that? Yeah. Okay, so that was like talking as we're talking about, and let's go back. Irina, she always brings us nicely back to what we're actually talking about. Creation 2.0, right? So that was the warm-up. What's in the middle between getting really hot? No, I think that was quite hot already. So we need to discuss these things so that we actually know what we're doing, right? Now we have, you see, this is the other thing. Let's talk about this. Creation and free will. Without knowing all these things, how we are organized, what sort of authority are we using in order to respond to certain things? Do we actually have free will?
I would say we have connection to all tools that we call available for human creation, human existence, human experience. And we do have access to free will as a tool for creating something, to making something happen. And then again, returning to that, being centered in what, where you are centered, what kind of beliefs you are still using for using free will, access to all tools for creation. Yeah. A return to responsibility. So depending when you will be centered in your existence, in what kind of beliefs would be definition for you, who you are, what is your essence, this is how you can approach to that free will, to those tools to make anything happen.
So what we're saying here is, Irina, let me just add something to this, because free will is really only available to us. It's available to us, but we can really just exercise it once we have gone beyond our conditioning, once we have gone through the majority of our karmic, sort of resolution. And this is obviously the creation 2.0 is going into the Dharmic creation, generation, inspiration, manifestation, where we can now say we are no longer reacting, but we are responding. And there's a time factor to this responding as well. Lots of people who are driven by their root chakra or their head, which I'm a head driven one, of course, connected to the root chakra. It's like, okay, let's go now, hurry. Now that impatience, that doesn't really allow us to respond adequately, because there is a time, there's a divine timing for everything. And by taking the pressure away from the head, taking the pressure away from the root, those are the two pressure centers, we can just start responding in divine timing. Now, this is going out again, because this has been my own process I've been working with for all my life, where I've judged myself for wanting something too fast. All these people telling me, put the seeds in and wait. And for God's sake, please, I can't do that. It's not, the thing is, it's really understanding that the time is not always right. And responding means allowing that timing to be divinely orchestrated.
Yes, and what you said, you are in different timing than maybe people around you moving in. You are existing in a different timing. So now, while we are still in transition and we are in that mode when we have to, not have to, but we kind like can, it's open for us to enjoy who we are, really who we are, what we know about ourselves. So for you to really move in your way, what is your timing, would be that thing that you will heal your past experience when you kind like stopped yourself from being who you are, existing in your timing next to people who are existing in different timing, not to buy into their demand or societal agreement. We are moving slow now. You see, that actually not their problem. It's now for you possibility to recognize it and start to enjoy it without proving. So this is how we start to coexist in different timing. And for me, creation, it's never creation by one. It's all the time co-creation. Or you are breathing, co-creating with nature, or you are creating something with other human beings. You are creating, co-creating with other beings. It's all relational. And if you want to have relations that working for you, you have to have you that working for you. If you still judging yourself, if you still making yourself invisible even for you, quieting yourself or proving yourself, you will not have relation, co-creation, creation that you will enjoy. So you need to look inside of you again, find those limitations that were by people described as ego, judged part of you, and just invite that part of you, understand of that part of you, why in that time in our past we choose to do that limitation experience, and today start to enjoy who you are. Then you are flowing into creation, into co-creation.
Go, Sandrine.
I have a very good example from myself, speaking from myself this time, on what you have been exposing here, Irina, and I'm putting it on the self-paced studies. So I'm a person, I love to learn new things, so I take up different courses, and I prefer those that are self-paced studies. But using the self-paced is like you decide on what is the timing that you want to learn, right? But I also notice nowadays that it is actually myself, the inner myself, is telling me how and when I should do the timing of learning the different things. Usually you do it like you take your time on Monday at 5 and you do it, right? Self-paced, because that is like the time you want to do it. But I have also noticed, and here's also the thing on letting go of achievement, letting go of the success, letting go of the terminating things, because myself has actually not yet digested some of the things that I've been exposed to, and I need to wait for it to go through until I can then say, okay, now I'm taking the next module. And then suddenly I noticed that when I did that it was much more helpful to go forward in my studies. And this is at the timing, but the timing was from myself, from my insights, you know, and this is again an experience that I'm learning more and more to trust. It's not like, okay, now I stopped doing that course for the last 3 weeks. It doesn't mean that I'm not doing it anymore and I'm not interested in anymore, and I'm not the finisher, you see. No, not at all. It's just because myself inside of me tells me that, you know, just wait a little bit, because maybe there are other things out there that you need to hear first, that you need to experience first, that you need to see first before you can move on. And it could be mundane stuff, honestly, but I'm trusting this system more and more and more, because I notice how well, you know, paced and timing and getting into this process of letting it happen without an outcome of it. You know, I might finish it, and I have finished things done, okay, but at a much higher level, vibration, frequency, or timing, because now there is another timing that I can move on with. So it's just, yeah, wonderful.
Wonderful. Lovely. Let me just say one thing here. Thank you for the process. That's a process, right? And we're here to share our processes to, like Irina said early on, focus on your inner journey again, right? So timeless co-creation, unconditional love, all these things can only really exist beyond the conditioning. And then I want to talk about the co-creation. You've just said the co-creation with the fractal selves and all of that. But let's, Irina, what before you lose your thought here.
When everyone, like Sandrine was describing her process, becoming that one who is enjoying who she is, when everyone step into that type of who they are and how they co-create with everything around them, from that vibration, from joy, I exist, this is who I am, this is how I want to walk in this world, then this is what we're going to have, that brand new experience, being in a bodies, yeah, being so different. Everyone is so unique and different, but in real time, co-create with everything that is around me, and I'm pulled to co-create with that particular part of this world in that real time. So then when how you describing, Sandrine, you have your timing. So you may start your co-creation with one group, and then in your perfect timing, not changing your perfect uniqueness, you will continue with another group and then step into other group. And for you, it would be the same process of you creating something, but it will be in different parts of these possibilities, what is around you. So, and then we will understand and see beauty of everyone's uniqueness who is around us, existing, coexisting with us right now, right here. And this is how we will find your people, and we will connect only with your people who can see you, who can appreciate you, who are enjoying being next to you.
Good. Anyone wants to say something? I missed out a little bit. I had to just leave for a second.
So good. We
No,
were just
I was just going to say, respecting the time it takes to integrate the information.
Right. Okay, well, co-creation. We're talking about creation 2.0, right? Let's talk about co-creation. Let's go into co-creation. Irina, I've just heard you say choosing the people that actually, appreciate you and all of that. What else?
Not choosing from brain. This is that your vibration, who you are, will bring you to those people with who you co-create, and those people would be your people only, not brought by brain logic.
Well, I think we can safely say that the brain doesn't have a decision power. The mind doesn't have a decision power. The throat doesn't have a decision power. Yeah. So the decisions are not made by any of that. So whoever thinks they're making decisions by the mind, by even the third eye, you're not. Okay. The decisions come either from the spleen, from the solar plexus, or from the sacral, or from the heart and ego. Okay. So we can just take out that conversation of mind or not. And I'm a big fan of my cognition, because I love doing that. All that information that comes in, I love working through it and putting it into different compartments and analyzing and this and that. But I'm very aware that I don't make decisions from that place. All right. So that's one thing. So thanks for saying that, Irina. We do not make decisions from the mind, even if you think you do.
No. Some people do. Some people actually do. And that from how brain still influencing our centers of decision-making, like you said, heart, maybe something else in your understanding. Brain actually showing us and still working for us to recognize our limitations, beliefs that are still holding us in limited existence, not really who we are, but who we agreed to perform. So for some people, they still do use brain as that organ that will show them their limitations, and they live from their limitations. For some people, it's existence. But if you already know that you don't want to exist in your limitations, don't want to experience this world through your limiting beliefs, then yes, you really in charge of tuning what brain is saying or not. But for a lot of people who didn't go through recognition inside of them, those limitations, those beliefs, they still under influence of brain memories about limitations.
Yeah. So yes. Okay. So that's a nice way of putting it. They are under the influence of the brain, of the mind, but just keep in mind, the brain and the mind can't make a decision. So
No.
they're under the influence that is then impacting on the ego, and the ego and the heart in connection is still having something to prove. Okay. And this is just being, you know, we don't nitpick here, but it takes out a lot of pressure because it brings you back to the heart. It brings you back to the ego, you know, instead of getting hung up, because so many people say, oh, the mind is the enemy. The mind is not the enemy. Okay. It's not the enemy, because you don't make decisions from there. You're not making decisions from there. You're being impacted by it. But that's it. You know what? It's an energetic difference, and it takes away a lot of pressure when you can look at it from that perspective. You don't judge yourself for being in the mind, because I am a very cognitive, you know, logical person, and I judge myself forever for being in the mind, thinking I'm making decisions from the mind. No. And there's nothing wrong with having all these compartments and everything, because that's how I, you know, how I live. But
exactly. Without logic, you will not be able, anyone will not be able to exist in this world, because our brain actually, it's a translator for impulse, for that decision, how we can use it in our world today, how we can translate it into logic, and receiver to receive that impulse from heart. And this is what is brain function, really.
Yeah, you know, let's just illustrate this from a slightly different perspective. Just to give an example from my head is undefined. My triangle on the top, it's been undefined from the very beginning, because I'm just a sucker for information. My third eye, what they call the Ajna center, is fully defined, and it has been defined, and it will always be defined, because I take that information and I process it, I write it down, I share it. That's just the way it is, and then it goes into the throat. Now, that doesn't mean that my decision making is in the third eye or in the crown. It's actually in the solar plexus, you know, or in the spleen, or in the sacral. It used to be, you know, I've got this martyr thing, which, you know, martyr is never a good way of, you know, it's never nice, but martyr, they call it tester. I'm testing life. I don't shy away from trial and error. I make lots of mistakes because I don't understand mistakes. There's no such thing for me. For me, everything is experimentation. That's why I can just get myself into something and just speak without, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. I learn from it, that kind of thing. Where am I going with this? Creation. Yeah, you always do whatever you want with your mind. Get rid of the conditioning. Yes. But that will be then be reflected again in the heart and in the ego center, as if you're making choices from there. But you need to know what, not choices, same thing, choices, decisions, but you need to know what your authority is. What is your authority? Are you more emotional? I'm not emotional from a place of, oh, I'm so sad, I'm so depressed and all that. It's just the feeling. Am I feeling stuff? Yeah. Am I a feeler? I mean, my whatever sense is touch, the used to be, and I can appreciate that. I used to be a toucher. When I go shopping, I have to touch everything, you know, in order to know if I like it or not. Once I touched it, I know I don't like it. Not that it looks different. It's just I have to touch it, you know.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
So, you know, not everyone's a toucher. Everyone's just a feeler. They feel it. They can, you know, whatever. So be that as it may, I want to move on to co-creation now. Co-creation. Yeah.
What I think is interesting, I just have a comment about this human design chart and the way that we're looking at it, because what I see is when a center is defined, there are 3 traits that are defined. 3. In every center except for the crown, which only has 3 traits, there are at least 7 traits. So when you have a trait that there's 3 traits defined, you still have 4 that aren't defined, right? So I just want to comment that what you think is defined is maybe not totally defined. right? When you have a greater amount of traits that aren't defined, is it really defined if you only have 3? Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think
No.
when
And
we're
that-
looking at a definition of defined, it's what the human design is saying is defined, but I don't necessarily consider that defined.
So there's a distinction between open and defined. If you have a center that is not colored in, then they call it undefined. Even if you have only one, as you say in the head, if you only have one number lit up, that's considered undefined. And I'm by no means an expert in that. If you have, it's completely white and it's got nothing colored, then it's an open. It's an open center. So they call it defined, undefined. They call it defined when it's colored in. And the colored in thing is when there is a link between the numbers. Let's say if you have 63 in the head, which is, I think, doubt, which I have, of course. It goes into the throat or wherever. And if there is that link, the connection, that complete, then it lights up, then it's got a color, even if it's halfway, I think. So that's the distinction. So it's undefined, even if you have just one color lit up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When it's clear, it's undefined. But my point was, and maybe this is just debating semantics, but my point is that, like, I look at my chart and I see, for my heart example, I have 3 traits that are colored in. And then everything else is white, right? And there's 8 there. So because there's a greater amount that are not colored, is it really defined, even though there's only 3 colored in? I don't know. That's just, it just seemed not to totally track with me. That's all.
Yeah, no, and I fully agree. I think you could study this system for years and find nuances, you know. And I'm not one of those people who goes into those details. So I just pick bits and pieces. And if anyone wants to go into that, by all means do, you know.
I mean, and that's exactly, I think, what you can look at anything, whether it's your astrological chart or human design, gene keys, you know, galactic calendar, you know, however you're looking to understand, there's many, many different ways, and you can pick and choose what you want to get from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there is no such thing as right or wrong or better or worse if one is defined and one is not defined. You know, it's just interesting when you do read whatever, you know, their description and ideas about those centers are. And, you know, there might be just one sentence that makes perfect sense for you and the rest just leave it, you know, or use it as something that you want to explore further, you know. But I want to go back. Oh, well, we got some new peeps here. So creation. What is creation for you? I'll shut up for a change. Anyone? Or co-creation. What do you consider co-creation? Especially between the fractal selves, maybe. Because we talked about timelessness, yeah? Divine timing. We talked about timelessness, which, you know, this is the era we're going to. There's no distinction anymore between present, future, and past. Everything's happening at the same time. So that timelessness is becoming more apparent to us. We're starting to perceive that with much more ease now. You know, all these, you know, books we read about the power of now are starting to make perfect sense now, because it's really, the body is always in the present moment, right? The soul through the sacral chakra. Sacral chakra doesn't know anything else other than the present moment. So fractal selves, all of those fractal selves, and that brings us back to the inner journey that Sandrine and Arina were talking about, right? Because that inner journey is part of us acknowledging our multidimensional fractals of our soul. And they're all starting to talk to us now. So they're all starting to have a voice now. Are we going to make them shut up, or are we actually having a conversation with them? And sometimes, you know, they even have a more interesting conversation than others on the outside. Anyone wants to just share some processes or some experimentation on this?
Well, I have something to share, but it's very human and grounded, which I think, you know, we've been talking a lot about conceptual, but you know, for me, it's always about, again, coming back to the here and now and being present in the body, right? And you know, I look at this heart center and the three define, I look at my heart center in this human design chart, and I see that I have gift 10, a love of life, and a gift for loving the physical body and the power within. But I also have this gift of taking a vision and turning it into reality. So what I responded to last night were the 4 old brown bananas in my kitchen. And I created the vision of turning something into reality, and I made banana bread. So what did I have to do? I had to look at the recipe, and then I never follow the recipe. I look at the recipe, and then I, you know, get out all the things, mix it together, right? And think about what I'm creating as I'm making this thing, right? And creating with love and joy and usefulness, right? Because I knew if I didn't make that banana bread, those bananas, you know, today or even tomorrow would be, you know, not usable. So that was something that was timely. I was responding to the timeliness of the decay of bananas in my kitchen. And then the banana bread came out and it was good. So, you know, I mean, that's just like one simple little process, but that was 8 o'clock last night. So if I wasn't going to do it, it wasn't going to get done.
And that's creation done backwards. Creation done backwards. We're going back to timelessness. We're going back to simplicity. We're going back to not having to prove anything anymore, but we're going back to actually responding to what creates the most in the moment. As you say, the bananas didn't have to die. You generated a new life for them.
And they weren't going to make that banana bread, wasn't going to make itself.
Exactly.
Right. I had to get up and do it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But you know, Tanya, I was you know, because sometimes I used to go. Sometimes when I feel like I had to sit down, I feel like that kind of guiltiness. I had not done much today, and I went to the micro store and grabbed one. Oh, I spent like almost 45 minutes trying to figure out, because I want to do a mandala drawing, you know, just painting with a color pencil. I tried to figure out, there were so many different ones. I said, I want something like a neutral that I had just to color it. And then it was like interesting because I spent more like a 1 hour and a half in going back to the stores, spend time over there looking and go back home. I said, my God, I passed already 3 hours. I was just doing for this because I had this feeling that I want to be like a neutral, not doing anything, but at the same time, like in silence and like a reconnection with myself for different things that were happening. And then it came beautiful. And it was just something that maybe in another moment I won't be able to do it, because I was feeling, you know, I will be feeling myself, why am I going to wasting time, you know, coloring here like a little kid, a Mandela, you know, notebook. And then it was kind of interesting how I was so into that I finished almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Because I want to finish it, and I will combine the colors. I have, what color can I put here? What can color? And then was like interesting how I went through the process. And this, you know, like a little kid trying to say, I gotta finish. It was at 1 o'clock, almost 1:30 in the morning. I think, oh my God, I gotta go to bed. However, I finished it. And it was that because I had that need inside me, looking for like at that moment, like a stop in time, a space, or whatever I can say it. But it was this like I don't care what's happening. I just want to do this, drawing this mandala, and it became very beautiful. I was amazed myself. But I had to shut down the mind that would be telling me, why are you doing this instead of with the song singer that you have to do? Like every day we have so many stuff that we have to do it. But I managed that day just to stop everything and dedicate myself to create that. It's like, wow, it was a beautiful feeling. It was a beautiful feeling. Like you banana bread.
Yeah. You just had to get out of your own way, right? Like we all do sometimes. Get out of the head and be in the emotion and just the flow.
That's what I call a heart opening. For me, that's a heart opening. Not having to prove anything anymore, just doing it for the sake, for the fun of it. Beautiful. I've got a question along those lines. Because how many things are we actually doing, instigating, generating, responding to, that actually doesn't really work for us anymore? I might as well just rather make banana bread or, color in a mandala. So are you willing to allow yourself to not achieve what you no longer want? Are you willing to allow yourself? There's no need to answer that. Just see what awareness comes up. Are you willing to allow yourself to not achieve what you no longer want? Because how much of what we are responding to is actually something we're just picking up from the collective? Even the idea of having to make a difference in the collective, just because the collective needs to change, is that really something you want to do? I mean, for me, again, this is all about sharing processes and experiences. I mean, I've been a healer for many, many years now. I've been in the corporate, I've been a yoga teacher, I've been God knows what. Now I'm a writer and I'm an artist. I've just started to really, allow myself to call myself an artist. And at the end of the day, I'm aware of the judgment of others. It's like, oh, she can't. I finished everything. I finished. I did it for a couple of years. I made some money and then I stopped. There was a lot of judgment that I have been aware of from other people that I picked up because, even I think our generation is probably obviously the last one, but where it's like, oh, you got to, put in a couple of years and that's what you do, and you push it to the end and you make the most of it. But do we actually acknowledge that, most of us are such compulsive generators and creators, and with the speed of light, and we don't really have to spend all these years and doing the same thing. And we also don't, we have quite a few manifesting generators here. We don't really just have to do one thing at the time. We can do lots and lots of things at the same time.
Well, I think too, Martina, that speaks to the energy of what's happening, right, on the planet, on Earth right now, right? It seems to be moving faster and faster and faster. So we're bringing this higher, more rarefied light to ground. And sometimes, you think, oh, I've got this great idea. I have this thing I'm going to do. And then the energy just it's there for one day or 2 days or one project, and then it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I was meant to do it then, and now I moved to something else.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying, because it's been really seeing the judgment, right? Of, oh, you can't stick to that. You can't, what are you doing? You're doing this and you're doing that. But I'm going with the flow. right? And there's you know, very limited, I think right now, a very limited amount of percentage of people on the planet who can understand how to flow like that. More and more, there's a
Yes,
wave of flow coming through.
amount of those people growing, and again returning to our uniqueness. Everyone's so unique, and when we co-create pause and observation, it's a part of co-creation. When you don't forget about you at that time, you enjoying being in a pause, observing what is happening around you, and feeling, knowing from inside your moment when you step into picture and you are in action. Not from your compulsion, I have to do something, but from that knowing it's my timing now because I'm enjoying what's happening around and I have something to say in that happening. I have something to be in that happening. Yeah. And more people like that appearing. Yeah. But still, a lot of people who are still serving their not loved part of their personality, proving something and acting to be loud, to be heard, to be on a stage. When, yeah.
I think too, you know, so many of us have let the global narrative or our parents or our friends or, you know, work colleagues define what is important to create, right? Where each of us are unique beings of light in human bodies, and we have the impetus and the soul direction, right, to come and seed new concepts and new things, right, instead of just regenerating the same thing over and over and over and over again.
But now we can start to look into that part of societal agreement when society is acknowledging action, but not acknowledging pausing. To make a pause, to take a pause. So this is where we can look and put maybe our effort to how we can redefine our societal agreement to acknowledge by everything, by money, by attention, by acknowledging those only parts of human co-creation that are action. But for example, in our group, when you pause and not talk, you don't talk, you just listen, you still put in your energy, you still put in your effort and participation in our group conversations, the same with projects. Some projects, not some, all of those projects that people taking and co-creating as a group, those projects, they need someone to take a pause and just observe with energy, active presence, but without action as action. And, you know, now this is actually my vision that humanity have to redefine societal agreement, how we, our attitude as society to that part of co-creation when you are just observing, actively observing, not passively, but actively observing, participating in some projects. Because still society pushing us, humanity, humans, to be active all the time, not acknowledging that you can be in that inner participation, but you're not loud at that moment, but you are still part of project.
You know, I mean, and what if we can just sit back, as you say, the giving and the receiving, the response that we give is a result of what we receive. And that is our giving at the same time. And what if we don't even have to change society, because the society is changing itself. Think of all the souls that are coming in. Think of all the autistic children that we have, those are the guys. They will set us free because they come in with a completely different mindset, right? They come in with a completely different genetic imprinting, with a different emotional. Those are the ones that will really assist in the mutation of the solar plexus lifting into the heart. So I personally, you know, in the last couple of weeks, I suppose, with, you know, all these energies that are coming in, and just looking at the design has just been confirming for me that everything that I have been letting go of, what's right about that? There's so much right about me letting all of that go and stepping into my joy junkie, into my huge potential as a revolutionary. And, you know, I don't have to do anything. I just have to be in allowance to receive what's coming in and respond if there is anyone asking for my contribution. And that is I've got this other thing. I'm supposedly to be a stillness mountain. So, you know, I'm still working on that, on the stillness of the mountain, because that's apparently my conscious sun, my real purpose. So that's the new challenge, but it's creation 2.0. It's no longer the old triggers. It's no longer the old mirrors. It's no longer the old hardship. It's a different kind of interrelating, interconnecting. It's a different kind of mirror. It's the big, the higher mirrors, right? That are coming through now, and that we're showing each other. The co-creation, creating through joy, creating through just knowing there's potential, just responding when there is something and shutting up when there's nothing to say. That flow, that ebb and flow, that surrender, that innocence, that give and take.
I think
Well,
about that stillness within, Martina, and it's like the eye in the hurricane, right? All of this stuff can be going on around you, but you always have that, like that center of stillness.
mm,
And this is what I was saying, to acknowledge that part of our co-creation. Before now, by our societal agreement, that part, when you are in that stillness, was just recognized by person, but not acknowledged by society as something actively useful, actively co-creational. And now, when we recognize it inside of us, we will make our societal structure, societal agreement to recognize that part of co-creation, that stillness, holding that vibration.
Yeah, you can be a peacemaker. You can be a trailblazer by, whoa, taking the flag, running, you know, shouting, leading groups. And at the same time, you can be that, but just sitting in your house and not even walking out. Because the energy that you create, if you're joyful doing that, it's been a tremendous year for me, because last year was my pilgrimage, and this year is all about repairing the house, getting massages, you know, and just really more and more acknowledging that that's exactly what I need to do in order to be the peacemaker, in order to be and serve the collective, but just being joyful. And like, I think Aminia said it, you know, I mean, I've silent witness is some, you know, forensic post-mortem thingy here in the UK. The last couple, it's 27 seasons. I've watched them all, binge watched them until 2 o'clock in the morning, because I've got so much energy at the moment. Nothing kills me. Yeah, I sleep a bit longer, but I'm like, okay. But I have to almost allow myself to do that, because there's so much going on. I do so much work by myself, talking to my cats, looking at my stuff, processing, cooking, dancing, everything at the same time, just to work with that energy that is coming through at the moment, you know. No, but if I wouldn't say that to you guys here now, it's like nobody would even know. It's like my partner is at home at the moment. He said, when are you leaving? And he said, break. When are you leaving? I mean, on my trip. So I said, okay, I get it. But that's okay, right? That's okay. It's no judgment on that either, because we know each other. We know how we are, how we work. Because he's exactly the same, just on in a different arena. It's equally annoying.
Well, you know, Martina, it's interesting that you mentioned about the collective, and Irina mentioned about the society. Because I remember that I was exposed to the human design, and I think it was 2011. And I didn't pay attention because I was so focused in that we had to save the planet, we had to save the society. I mean, I was running like a chicken around everywhere they had a meeting, you know, a ceremony, you know, go to the full moons, new moon. I mean, you name it, I was everywhere. Then it's fascinating because now we have to understanding that this is a process that is individually, that we cannot save anybody, that we cannot make anybody do anything, that I don't have to have the responsibility to, like I had at that time, to save the planet. All those craziness program that I have at that time. And it's interesting this coming back to me, and then I'm in different position than able to, because now I understood that is my own journey and I don't have the responsibility to save anybody, only myself. And not be paying attention to what other people are doing, is what I'm doing myself right now, that is in my purpose. You know, it's kind of interesting how you go back in circle until we figure out, oh my God, why I didn't pay attention. However, I was not ready at that moment, I guess, because I was so much in that race to save everybody, because that was the program that I have at that time.
You see, the contribution that you are now is equally important and significant. The not doing is equally important as the doing. And that's the thing, you know, we call it, unfortunately, this society calls it selfish.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's the challenge, because we have been programmed that is a competition to be alive. How much you can make, how much you can do. Show me how much you can make, how much you can do. And that's the value that we have. That's the program that let me know how much money you make, or let me know how much people you help. You know, it's like a competition, and then we are in this race, running, and no center ourselves, because I talking from my own experience. Because coming from that program, that the more you do for others, the more value that you have, you know, and it was kind of really interesting, crazy, running around.
This is what I was saying about societal acknowledgement. This we are actually showing to us, ourselves, and to everyone else that when you are quiet and doing your inner work, you are still part of entire process of co-creation. And till now, it was not acknowledged by society as equal to be recognized when you are acting and when you are in active observation only. But active observation, being truly who you are. And this is what we kind like showing to societal agreement. We have to look at that. Because without those silent participants in active co-creation, maybe co-creation won't be full or even completed.
well, and that takes us back to the acknowledgement, actually, that before the Industrial Revolution, we didn't live like that. We lived in communities. We still did what, you know, what worked for us. That wasn't the norm for the grander population. That is all part of that domination and control system that we have allowed ourselves to participate in the last 400 years or 400 years or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But that's okay, because that is part of the evolution as well, because God knows what have we learned through those couple of 100 years, right? So we're going to come back now, or come through this, or, you know, have an awareness of, you know, what the possibilities actually are.
And not just maybe learned, but enjoyed how much fun we had on maybe soul level, not so much on human level, but how much fun we had on soul level, spirit level, participating, choosing that limitation period in our experience here. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, who of you guys, if I think of my dreams or of my past lives or something, there is a lot of past lives that are actually all related to this period between 1600, even before the Industrial Revolution, until now, you know? So a lot of that karmic resolution, yeah, it goes back to Lemuria as well and all of that, but the real drama and the real karmic resolution I had to really work through was all between those 1600 until now, you know? So it was worth it. Was it worth it? Of course. But then again, I'm a trial and error junkie. You know what I mean? I love that kind of shit because of my life, the great life's experimenter. And what if we can all be that, in addition to the other amazing capacities that you have? And what if that is your contribution to this world, to this awakening, to the change of society? Because 70%, if I look at my, you know, I'm a generator, but 70% of the population, and again, we can't really take any of those figures for granted, are generators. So think about it from a generator perspective. We're generating so much life force, yeah? Now, there are two ways of generating and using that life force. It's either satisfaction or frustration. Now, if we look at, you know, the collective, how much of that life force is bastardized and misused as frustration and not satisfaction? So when we sit on our arse on our couch at home and do nothing else other than binge watching something and are totally satisfied with that, what a contribution to the collective, right? Did you ever think of that? Binge watching could be a contribution to the collective? Yes! I'm the master. I could do 7 hours in one row.
So from now on, we are putting it out. This is active observation, active participation in active creation of others by me holding some space and being tuned when is my timing to step into active part of co-creation.
Very active 7 hours to watch. It's active too. But who would have thought that's peacemaking? Yeah, it's my new definition, but then I'm supposed to be a rebel. So new definition of peacemaking, binge watching. Now, next week, I want to hear your contribution, because your contribution will be very different. And I'm more than happy to appreciate it, to try it out, to experiment with it, because that's what we're here for. Closing words, peeps. I love the show today. All on fire. Thanks so much for coming. I love you.
Do what you love. You know, that's where the excitement is. That's where the satisfaction.
That's the challenge. That's the challenge. Do what you love. Bye-bye.
Anyone else? Closing words before we shut down?
No more guilt trips, just enjoying yourself and maybe discovering why you had those guilt trips and just working with that to transform it into your advantage, not your something missing.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, more banana bread, more coloring in.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Dana, Jen, Marissa, you guys still here? Do you want to say some closing words? Or you're just participating, responding through listening today? No. They're okay.
I'm here.
Perfect.
I was just being a passive listener today. That's my active duty to the group today, being a passive listener.
Thank you.
Let
We
you
were
guys.
feeling your presence
Yeah.
in your part of our co-creation
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm not kidding, because
Yeah.
from time to time you just pay attention to those
Yeah.
pictures you have on a screen, and it's like something coming from that picture. So it is actually happening
Yeah.
and recognized by some of us. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jen, for, I don't know if Jen is here today, but thank you her about, she explained a little more to me about the human design, and I'm checking in and get some information with the gene keys too. I think it's kind of interesting. Thank
Yes,
you.
you're welcome,
Oh, you're
Hermine.
here. Oh, you're
I'm
here.
I am. I've got contractor at the house, and I've got work stuff
Okay.
that's pressing. So I've been more of a passive listener, but I've been absorbing what y'all are saying. I enjoyed the topic last week and carrying on to this week. I haven't looked at human design much until we were getting ready for last week, but I am doing the activation sequence for the gene keys, which that follows the incarnation cross of human design. So I've been working on a lot
Yeah.
of understanding those tools and how to use them for myself. But
Yes.
I go back to what Martina was saying and what we said last week too, that like, if you want to be something other than what the math tells you you are, then just be it and figure out how to get there. My body has been impacted this week with all the, I don't know, the collective energies, the solar flares. I'm not sure what it is, but like my back has hurt, and I realized how blessed I am that like my body always just feels good, and when it doesn't, I really don't like it.
Wow.
So I had to redirect my energy yesterday into myself instead of into like the outside world, and it helped a lot. So
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
The collective is tapping into the life energy that you're creating as a manifesting projector. You know, you're connected to your sacral, and the sacral is responding to the needs, the request of the collective for anyone around you. And it's not a conscious decision sometimes. The body is such a healer body that you have. It's just reaching out. You know, this is where we have adrenal fatigue and all of that, and we might not have even done anything. It's just the body doing its own thing, and sometimes we got to rein it in and say, okay, we're not doing this. I know you decide to heal, but hey, I'm the I am, right? I am the I am avatar, and I'm gonna tell you how we do it. You tell me how to do it, but I tell you when to do it. That kind of thing.
Well, if they're gonna make me hurt, then kiss my ass, right? So like, but
you're the ultimate entity.
That's right. Can I change subjects and talk real quickly about something different? So I have a friend of mine. Does anybody know about the book, The Power of Eight?
I've heard of that.
I haven't read it, full disclosure. But a friend of mine, the one that I'm working on opening the healing center with, has really been wanting to put that idea into play, which the construct of that is that when there's 8 people or more working together really with a focused intention, that like absolute miracles can happen, like 8's the magic number. And she has a client that has a brain tumor, and she's a young mother with a situation to where she's like the only possible guardian for this child. And so like the idea of her being susceptible to a brain tumor is just unacceptable. And so Angela pulled together 8 healers to come together and work with her on Sunday, and I was one of those people, and it was a really powerful experience. Not only what I perceived in how everybody's energy went to her, but also like just in how everybody's energy worked together. And also, to me, it was such a beautiful experience to have that many healers together, all working just with nothing but love and non-competition. Not that people in general are that competitive, but I mean, you see in the healing communities sometimes that people don't always work well together, and there was absolutely like no friction whatsoever. The love and the emotion that flowed through that room was really amazing. So I just wanted to bring that into your awareness, that was a really beautiful thing that we could explore sometime.
Absolutely. Fabulous. Let's do this next week. I love it. Let's find someone who needs some help. I don't know, maybe we need permission, obviously. And we just come together and we'll just, whatever pops out or stays in, we'll do something along those lines. Let's see how we can create a little package around that.
Martina, I love that you just jump in. I said, let's jump in.
Experiment. I don't know how my energy is going to be next week, because I've been like this for 2 weeks now. So, you know,
You might be totally crashed.
I might be crashing. You know, funny enough,
You don't have to tell you twice. You just the first one, you just jump in.
so when you do what you love, you don't crash. I crash when I'm with people that are boring. I'm so bored. I need to go. You know, no, if I'm sparked up, I don't stop. It might be a problem for other people, but not for me.
That's very cool.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for bringing that in. Let's think about that. Let's create a topic around that, and we play with this. Leah, let's play a little bit. Okay, cool. Anything else? Are we all good? Oh, happy equinox, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Let's work with that. And
God.
we've got the lunar eclipse on the 25th before we see each other, right? What is today? 20? That's right.
I gotta do my fire.
Good. Have a good one with that. And we need to, and I think next week we're back to normal. I think our times are changing as well, but you're all in America anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
week. Yeah. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.